welcome. Hello, NYLON Manila. I'm super excited to be here with all of you today to talk a little bit more about social media. So I am social media Soph, or my students like to call me Coach Soph. I can see some of them here actually, so hi guys. I'm super excited to teach you a little bit more about how to use social media for your brand. So without further ado, I will share my screen. Oh. Hold on. Sorry, Nylon, can you give me access to share my screen? But anyway, before that, I'll introduce myself, I guess, Muna. So I'm social media Soph. A lot of my students come from TikTok. I'm very active on TikTok. So I've been in the marketing industry for around 5 years now. And I now started Social Media Soph Academy, where I have over 200 students. So I'm excited to share a little bit of my knowledge with you today. So now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how to start a brand on your social media platform. So social media strategy for the new norm with me, Sofia Quiogue. So before anything else, I just wanted to start with a little bit of a question. Oh, sorry, no, not question, but I wanted to introduce myself. Again, I'm Social Media Soph, and I am a social media strategist and marketing coach. So I love doing what I do because my passion and purpose is making meaningful connections and helping others express their unique voice through social media. So that's my motivation. That's why I love to do what I do. And I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about that today. So this is what we're going to be discussing. This is what we're going to be going through today. So first, get to know yourself and your brand. Second, get to know your audience. Third, create your action plan. Fourth, keep your audience engaged. And finally, my secret sauce to content strategy, which is something that I teach in one of my courses. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them into the chat. So first, let us start with a question. Let us chat a little bit. So I wanted to ask you guys, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, let me know in the chat. Did you want to be like a teacher or a scientist, an astronaut, or whatever, like president of the Philippines? I don't know. Let me know in the chat. I just want to engineer, nurse, pilot, fashion designer, lawyer, teacher, actress, philanthropist, fashion designer, and nurse. Wow, love it. Philanthropist, doctor, astrologist, dancer, artist, actress. Ooh, love that. Nurse, doctor, fashion designer, interior designer. Okay, amazing. Magazine editor. I love it. Thank you, everyone. I love it. Well, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a dancer, but here we are now. I'm working in marketing, so flight attendant, stylist. Okay, love it. Biologist, anything with clothes, love. Okay, so why did I ask you this question? The number one thing that you have to understand about your brand is that it's a reflection of you. You really have to understand why you created the brand so that you can actually showcase that in your brand story. You know, you have a mission, you have motivation. For me, I became a marketer because, you know, I used to have like people talking behind my back, and like, you know, I super hated it, and I felt like I was being silenced. So in this way, that's why I wanted to, you know, try to help other people find their voice, because I know what it's like not to have a voice. So when it comes to your brand, you have to understand what your mission is and how it connects to you personally. So first, we're gonna start with get to know yourself and your brand. So treat your brand like it's your own person, okay? Creating a brand that caters to a specific audience is like starting a relationship. So you have to treat your brand like it's your own person, and you need to get to know yourself before you can actually get into a relationship with your audience. So you have to make sure that you establish your goals and objectives from the very beginning and do your research, find out what differentiates you from your competitors, because each post represents a brand promise. So before you even get on social media, before you even start posting on social media, you have to ask yourself these questions. So who do you want to have a relationship with? What value do you provide to the relationship? Who are you and what do you mean to people? And how do you maintain the relationship? And what do you stand for? So again, really take a deep dive on who you are, what your brand is, and I'm gonna help you out with that a little bit. So later I'm gonna be giving you guys some homework. So I'm gonna be giving a workbook that you guys can fill out to help get to know your brand a little bit more. So next we have get to know your audience. So again, it's like going on social media is like starting a relationship, and you have to make your audience fall in love with you. And what does this mean? This means it's not about you. So again, it's about your audience. It's about what they need, what they want, why they would actually support your brand, why they need your brand. So get to know them. It's about them. It's not about you, because you are in a relationship with your audience. So you have to really just focus on them and tailor make your content for them. And the keys to this are authenticity, understanding, and community. So authenticity, you have to really showcase everything about your brand. And that's why it's important to get to know it first before you start posting on social media, because you have to really showcase the authenticity behind it. And then understanding what your audience needs, understanding what they want, and understanding why you fit the criteria for what they actually do need. And then a sense of community. You have to make your brand feel like a part of your audience's lives. So niching down or creating a target market allows you to create superior conversion rates and grow the attention of your market with highly targeted messaging. So instead of just, talking to everyone in the world or everyone in the Philippines, you have to really have a picture in mind of who your audience is. And, for me personally, I like to have like a specific persona. Like I name the person, I talk about their job, their location, and stuff like that, so that when I create messaging for, let's say, me or my clients, I know who I'm talking to, and I can create messaging and content that's tailor-made for them. So your niche has to be unique, identifiable, and scalable. So ask yourself these questions when you're creating your target market or your niche. So who are they, and who and where they are? Sorry, there's no question mark. Who are they and where are they? What are they doing? What do they like and dislike? What are their personalities and lifestyles like? What are they motivated by? So what drives them to do what they do? So why do they do what they do? And why do they love what they love? These are actually often overlooked. Like people always focus on like the demographic, the name, the age, the location, the social demographic status. But the more important parts actually are their motivations. Why do they actually do what they do? Why are these their likes? Why are these their dislikes? Why do they like doing a certain thing? Why don't they like doing a certain thing, etc.? So make sure you really get to know them as much as possible. So I'm gonna show you an example. My favorite brand for marketing. This is really like the peg that I try to do when I have like a specific client. It is Glossier. I love Glossier. I'm sure a lot of you do too. So Glossier grew from being a blog to $100 million business. And how did they do this? They made the everyday woman feel special. So they constantly replied to comments, they constantly replied to DMs, and they especially encouraged and shared user-generated content. And they even have a Slack channel with their top customers for feedback. So you can see that they really integrate their audience, their market into their brand. They make them feel that they're actually a part of their brand. And then even with their content, you can see, they share like all these women, like older women, women of color, pregnant women, like they share all these different types of women, like not just models. Like even for their PR packages, they don't give them to like big influencers. They actually give them to their their best customers. So super, super important to really integrate your audience into your brand. So next is to create your action plan. So a lot of people, it can be so easy to just keep posting and not really have a plan behind it. But like I said earlier, each post represents a brand promise, and each post represents a piece of your brand story. So creating an action plan is just the best way to kind of make your content super cohesive with your brand, make your content super aligned with your brand. So creating an action plan, the first step is highlight your goals and objectives. So goals and objectives are actually different. So goals are general guidelines that explain what you want to achieve in your community. So it can be like awareness, conversion, interest, loyalty, etc. And then objectives are specific and measurable, and they have a defined completion date to attain goals. So for example, increase of followers by 500 in 1 month, or increase engagement rate by 5% in 1 month. So your goals are what you want to achieve, and your objectives are the things that you measure to achieve that goal. And then identify your KPIs per goal. You have to identify what exactly you need to track so that you can see this if your campaigns are successful or not. And then after you've established your goals and objectives, you create your content pillars or campaigns, and then specify a schedule per pillar. So you have different campaigns, but it's important to stay consistent when it comes to social media. So if you have, let's say, like a brand awareness campaign or a conversion campaign, etc., then make sure that you create a set schedule for that. For example, every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday, because you want your audience to know what to expect when it comes to your content. So make sure that you really set a schedule for that. When it comes to goals, this is your sales funnel. So if you're not familiar with the sales funnel, this is awareness, interest, consideration, conversion, and loyalty. Sorry, there's a typo there. So awareness, interest, consideration, conversion, and loyalty. You have to reach your audience in different touch points with where they are in the brand, so that you can actually, it's like you're making them kulit, like, hey, we're here, hey, we're still here. So you have to make sure to reach them on different touch points so that, it's like a customer journey. So when you start with awareness, you start with making known who you are, and then their interest gets piqued. So you start building that relationship with them, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure that you have activities for these goals, so that you can really, really foster your audience. So if you're starting out, obviously your objective would be awareness, and then interest, consideration, et cetera. So here's an example of an action plan that I created for one of my clients. So it's for a swimwear brand. So as you can see, I wrote the goals and objectives, and then the strategy. So what type of content is actually going to be under each goal and objective. So for example, for awareness, I have quotes, tips, interactive posts on brand values, blah, 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 and stuff like that. And then I have the success metrics. So what do I actually need to track to see if the content I'm creating for each campaign is successful? And then finally, post frequency, like I said, set schedule. So Monday and Friday on IG, Monday, Wednesday, Friday on TikTok, then conversion and loyalty. So different ways to style the products, blah, 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 blah. And then success metrics, leads, orders, new customers, and sales. And then every Wednesday on IG, Tuesday, Thursday on TikTok. So again, very important to have this as a reference so that you can go back to it always. So you don't get overwhelmed with creating content. You're like, oh no, what do I post now? Oh no, what do I post today? You know, you have to have this so that you know what you actually need to be creating, what content you need to be creating, what answer you're trying to what answer you're actually trying to showcase to your audience. And finally, we have keep your audience engaged. So super, super important to prioritize conversations. And I say that 3 times because it's very important. You have to really have that back and forth with your audience and not just like continually posting. You have to be able to have that conversation with your audience because, you know, engagement is really important, connection is really important because, and social media isn't a one-way street, but a two-way tango. So it's, and you know, engagement, it's not just good for the audience, but also good for the algorithm, because if you're having a conversation with your audience, you're connecting with them, but also you're boosting your algorithm because your engagement rate is going up. So super important to have conversations and less announcements. You have to really prioritize conversations over conversions when it comes to social media, because realistically, you know, social media is really about more about awareness. So make sure you're prioritizing conversations. Connect with them by gratifying them, make them love, make them think, or inspire them. And create an experience with emotions. So you really want to trigger emotions when it comes to your audience because that's the way that they can actually connect with you. Okay, so it's super important that for every post you have to have a clear call to action. And calls to action don't always mean, you know, asking for the sale. You have to make sure that your audience knows what to do after reading your content or after seeing your content. So again, it doesn't have to be a sale. It can be just like, oh, like this if you agree. So here are some examples. If it's a long post, you can tell them to save now and then read later. You can tell them to comment their experience if they relate. You can tell them to double tap if they agree. Limited time, don't miss out. So let's say you're having a sale or something. Remember to ... Remember to add our sale to your calendar, etc. Tag a friend who you want to do this with. Tag a friend who you think would like this. And then go from X to Y by booking now. So let's say for me, I say go from chaos to connection by booking now. So here are some examples. I mean, we love to help, but we're still running a business here. Double tap if you agree. So super relatable post and super clear call to action. And here, swipe left for a list of blah, 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 and then save for later. So saves are actually a really huge part of Instagram. So if people are saving your post, then that bounces up your engagement rate exponentially. And then swipe left to see 3 cool ways, blah, blah, blah. And then which one is your favorite? So again, very clear calls to action, swipe, and then comment your favorite. So when you're creating content, you have to prioritize quality over quantity. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'm saying it because I'm super emphasizing it. Me personally, I don't believe in posting on IG feed or FB every single day. As long as you're consistent with the content that you actually do post, then you're golden. So this applies to both content and audience. So rather than creating more content, create content that's relatable, valuable, and shareable. And rather than aiming for more followers, aim for the right followers. So now I'm going to share with you my secret sauce to content strategy. And this is what I like to call the Spark formula. If you're my student, then you know about this already. You've heard about me talk about this because I love it. So the Spark formula stands for segmentation, provide value, authenticity and relatability, regular dialogue, and keep up with the convo. So remember the questions that I told you to ask yourselves earlier. This is what the Spark formula is. So segmentation answers the question, who do you want to have a relationship with? Provide value answers the question, what value do you provide to the relationship? Straightforward. Authenticity and relatability, who are you and what do you mean to people? Regular dialogue, how do you maintain the relationship? And finally, keep up with the convo, what do you stand for? So it's important to really ask yourselves this when you're creating a brand. Who do you want to have a relationship with? And then what is the value that you provide to the relationship? Who are you and what do you mean to people? This is what I was talking about earlier, motivations. Regular dialogue, how do you maintain the relationship? Conversations, and then keep up with the convo. So what do you stand for? This again ties into authenticity. So make sure that if there's like an issue happening, or if there's like, something that's happening in the world right now, make sure that you show your stand. If you're a brand, make sure that you show your stand in that issue, especially if it aligns with your branding. So to wrap up, this is the cycle that you need to go through. Understand yourself and your audience, create consistent and relatable content with CTAs, engage with your community and encourage user-generated content, and take note of what works best. And then this is cycle just again and again and again and again. So your homework, I'm going to be attaching a file to the chat right now. So it's a social media strategy workbook. So you can fill this out and then send the email to, where's the email? So fill this out and then send the email to, send the email to the email on the screen later. And there, NYLON Manila at 1mega.com. There we go. Send it. And then don't forget to include your name and then your email address and your contact info. Submit your entries to the workbook. I will be attaching it now. Give me a second. Okay, there. It's loading. And while I have you, I'd like to invite you to my free masterclass. So it's called Making Meaningful Connections Through Social Media, Conquering the New Norm. So it's August 20 at 6 p.m. Link in the chat box or scan this QR code. So I'll send the link. Oh, here. Okay, the workbook has been sent and here's the link to my masterclass. So if you'd like to join, you can just join through the link or scan the QR code. And that's it for me. Now we'll open the floor to questions. Well, Angela will. But anyway,
Yes.
if you want to keep up with my journey, you can follow me on Instagram or scan the QR code. Follow me on TikTok at Social Media Soph or scan the QR code. Check out my website or send me an email at spark@socialmediasoph.com. So back to you, Angela.
Thank you so much, Coach Soph. Obviously, there's a lot of ideas sparked this afternoon from everything that we talked from the very beginning, from the voice of Ariel to finding your voice on social media. I've seen Jamila in one of your memes. It's such an engaging conversation, which is really the core of social media. I think
Yeah.
you'll agree with that, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
speaking of engagement, we talked about a lot about authenticity and keeping the conversation going. That was reiterated so many times, and rightfully so. What are your thoughts on the shift that's going on social media? I'm sure all our workshoppers are going to notice how from the curated few years, now people are starting to kind of let loose and kind of do the dumps again, are posting like stories that are not so perfect. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts that we're kind of shifting back to what social media really was about?
I really love it, honestly. I'm really happy about it because, well, social media I think was created for connection. You know, it's not just about showcasing the best parts, but also showcasing, parts where you can be a little bit more vulnerable. Like for me personally on Instagram, I post a lot of like vulnerable stuff. I talk about mental health, I talk about my struggles. And I think that's really the key to actually connecting with people. I mean, obviously, there's nothing like face to face conversations, but then social media shouldn't be used as a mask. It should be used as another way to connect with people. And I think it's really, really good that we're starting to open up more on social media. And I think we should keep doing that even more.
It's so refreshing to see like a return to what it once was,
Yeah.
right? You also talked
Yeah.
about quality over quantity.
Mhm.
Why is that important? Because sometimes, with whatever we've been taught or like kind of um, forced na parang, oh, kailangan marami kang post, it will keep your algorithm going or whatever, just to kind of fight or kind of challenge the algorithm because that's on everyone's minds, diba? How do I
Mhm.
the algorithm? Why is it important that it should be quality kahit you don't post every day or
Yeah.
alam mo yun?
Well, the fact of the matter is there are billions of people on social media. So everyone is going to have something to say. Everyone is going to be posting. And the risk of that is that users can get content fatigue. So when it's so important that when you actually do post, it's something that's substantial. It's something that means something to other people and yourself. Because, just continuing to post on and on won't really help you with an algorithm if people don't engage with it, if people don't respond to it, if people don't like it, comment, whatever. You have to again prioritize connections, and sometimes with the risk of posting every single day is that you kind of just post for the heck of it and don't really have any objective with that post. You don't have any goals. You don't have any motivations or intentions when it comes to that post. So it's super, super important to make sure that every single one of your posts has um, reason behind it. Because yun nga, you can get content fatigue, your audience can get content fatigue, and they will only stick around and they will only comment if the post actually means something to them. So yeah, quality over quantity.
And the audience is so perceptive. That's what I like about social media. They're so
Ah,
intelligent. They're
exactly.
so feeling that they can sense once the even just the slightest percentage of authenticity or parang the
Yeah,
intentions are not to connect or to engage or to give you a lesson or a story to kind of learn something from. Pag gusto mo lang, nafe-feel mo, di ba? And then you're like, I'll just swipe, I'll just scroll again to find
yeah,
that connection.
exactly. Yeah, people can sense BS. So so might as
Exactly. You said it right on the head. So I think we can open the floor for questions. I'm sure everyone's on social media. Everyone has a question. Everyone has a wants to light the spark in their minds. So
Mhm.
guys, just type it. If you're shy, we understand. There's nothing wrong with being shy. Type it on the chat box. I can read it out. But if you want to connect more, as we have learned this afternoon to Coach Soph, you can turn on your mic and your camera and ask away. While we wait, ayan. Oh, we have one.
Okay.
GND's on. Do you want to be the one to ask or what are the red flags of social media for you? And
Mhm.
personally, how do you engage with them in your own way? Red flags.
Red flags of social media. And what are the red flags of social media for you? And personally, how do you engage with them in your own way? What do you mean by red flags? Like as a user or as a brand who's gonna post, or what do you
Oh,
mean
that's an
by
interesting. As a
yeah?
creator and brand. So
Okay,
red
as
flags as both a creator and brand.
well, red flags are, well, we talked about it, BS.
Yeah.
Just not being, and also like hiding from your mistakes, I would say. I think that if you do make a mistake as a brand, then it's important to recognize it. And if you hide from it, then the more you give your audience the power to talk about it behind your back or talk about it for you. So it goes back to having your own voice. Na you have to take control of the situation and be like, okay, we messed up and we're sorry, but we'll try to make up for it. Something like that. And so, yeah, that showcases your authenticity, and that showcases that you actually do care about the people that you're serving, the people that you're catering to. Actually, another red flag also is like not really showing that you care about your audience and kind of just posting and like posting just to promote. So because when it comes to social media, you have to give your audience some value rather than just constant promotions, because that shows your audience that you care about them. So yeah, I guess those are my main red flags.
And like just to touch on what you said about making mistakes. I mean, it's a human thing. We're all human using social media, so
exactly.
No one's perfect. Wala na nga tayo sa curation. Here's another question. Interesting question. How do you know if your brand does well more with organic marketing or paid ads?
I mean, for me, it's always going to be a balance of both. If you're just starting out, then obviously organic is the way to go. You can have a lot of engaging posts and stuff like that. So you can just try to start growing your audience. And then when you've started to grow your audience, that's when you can start investing in ads. So it really, really depends also on where you are as a brand. But I think the perfect combination for social media would be a little bit of both.
And it goes back to what you said, to kind of set your intentions from the start. Like, what's your plan for? Do you want to grow it? Do you want to? You want to be for perception?
Yeah. So, and do you have the capacity to, invest in paid ads also?
Right. That's all. Because you have the funds, of course. Yeah. You can't. Yeah. Another question is how to revive an almost dying Facebook page, but it is an ongoing business. And is it always necessary to have an IG account for business?
Okay.
Love these questions.
For Facebook page, what's super, super important for a page is to create content that's shareable, create content that your audience can engage with. So you can ask like a question. If you notice, like, just look at your own personal Facebook feed, or even like the things that you share, and try to make your content into that. Yung mga, if what's your birthday? Your birthday is your, I don't know, stripper name or something like that. Yung mga content na ganon na super engaging and super shareable. And then for the IG account, no, it's not necessary to have an IG. For me personally, when I just started out, I just focused on one or two platforms. And if that's where you think your audience is, and if that's what you're capable of doing, then you don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to be on every single social media platform. You can just like focus your energy on one or two specific platforms that you think would work best with your brand.
Great. Another question is social media platforms and their algorithms, as we mentioned, are always changing. How do you keep up with the algorithm changes and updates on social media? And the connection is any go-to sites or accounts?
Well, I follow a lot of social media marketing people, but I also I check social media today very, very often, like every day, sometimes twice a day. So socialmediatoday.com is definitely my number one. And then I subscribe to this newsletter called Social Media Examiner. So that's also another one that's good. And then there's another one called Trending Topics. It's not really about social media. Sometimes they talk about social media, but then they showcase mga topics that are trending for the week and stuff like that. So, just look at a lot of different resources, whatever suits you best. There are blogs, there are YouTube pages, there are Instagram pages, there are podcasts. I have a hard time following podcasts because I get easily distracted. So I prefer, like either video or blog. But then if a podcast works for you, then you can also look at podcasts and stuff like that. So, just find whatever medium you enjoy and just literally just search, social media marketing, social media management, and super easy to find things.
And we have time for one last question, and a question that I'm sure we've asked at some point, especially now that there are times that you mentioned, oh, you feel like it posting, or you don't feel like posting, or you have to. How do you revive engagement that has fallen over time?
Ask your audience questions. Ask them what they like. Ask them what they would engage with. For me, I like to do market research regularly. So the way that I do that is either like I take polls on my stories, I take polls on Facebook through my Facebook group, on TikTok, I do lives, and then I ask questions. I ask them what they like, I ask them what they enjoy. Even through my Facebook group, I have like membership questions so that people can so I can easily get like parang a little bit of market research through the membership questions. And then also what I like to do is like occasionally do like surveys and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to ask your audience, like what type of content do they want to see? What type of content do they like the most that you already do? And yeah, don't be afraid also to try something new. Like if you're already established on Instagram and you have like a good flow of Instagram going, then maybe you can, transition to TikTok, or transition to Clubhouse or whatever, all the other social media platforms. But again, you don't have to be on every single one of them. It's only if you've already established like a good flow going with your social media platform that you can venture out into another social media platform. So yeah.
Wonderful. I'm sure everyone's just like taking down notes and mentally remembering all of this. And we'll also be hopping onto your workshop, your own talk on the 20th. But before we kind of let you go for a little bit, with spending the time that we have left, are there any last words that you have for the audience?
If you're starting a brand, if you're starting on social media business, and you think you're not ready, just go for it. Prepare as much as you can, plan out as much as you can, but then realistically, you're never going to be fully ready for something. But just take the leap and go for it. I quit my job to do this full time, and I'm never looking back again. I didn't think I was ready. My parents were telling me not to, but then I just went for it. And, I launched my business. I launched my social media Soph Academy. And like, honestly, the reason why it's called the launch is because you're taking off and it's just the beginning. So it's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if you F up, but make sure that you're learning along the way and make sure that you just take the leap.
Speaking of taking the leap and going for it, the learning doesn't stop. It continues on and on. It's an ever evolving, developing process. And the fun, of course, doesn't stop there. If you want to get a glimpse of what it is like to work for an international media brand such as NYLON Manila, this is a friendly reminder that we will be handpicking a select few to get a chance to receive an internship with us. So make sure, the challenges and the assignments, I hope you all understood it, have been given. Scan those QR codes, make sure to submit on or before August 13, 2021, and send it to nylonmanila@1mega.com. So before we end, don't forget to follow us on social media at NYLON Manila on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and on YouTube. For more NYLON Manila Career Fair updates, please join the NYLON Manila Generation Facebook community. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a kiki. Let's talk about really what gets our gears going, and let's get the spark. Let's sparkle social media. Let's get the spark going bigger and brighter and bolder. And most importantly, don't forget to visit us at nylonmanila.com. So thank you very much, Coach Soph, and to everyone who spent the day, the afternoon with us. Thank you so much, and hopefully you've learned something and picked up something that will help you find your dream job. Thank you.